Hello and welcome. So this is Kavansh and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to see all the functions, basically the most important function that used in a Python pandas. So if we talk about what is pandas, so basically it is a data manipulation library we can use for data cleaning, data exploring, etc. You can understand it like this is the Python library widely used on working with data sets. So yeah, for the sake of this video we are going to use the Titanic data set. So this is the data set you can download from the Kaggle or otherwise I will provide a link in the description. You can download from there as well. Yeah, so without wasting any time, let's get started. So I'm going to use the Jupyter notebook for all the processes, and make sure you have installed Jupyter notebook in your system. If you don't know how to install, there's a lots of video on YouTube, you can install from there as well. So I'm just using Jupyter notebook. Okay, so you can see this is my data set, and I'm just click on new. Okay, so there are so many functions inside this library, but most important functions we are going to see in this video. You can understand it like a crash course on Pandas. Okay, so first thing, make sure you have installed Pandas. So for that you install Pandas. Okay, so you can see the requirement already satisfied me. I already installed this, and before using pandas you have to import this. So you can import pandas as pd. So basically as is just like an alias, or you can see a short form by which we are going to use this pandas. So we are going to use this pandas as pd throughout the video. Okay, so the library has been imported, and next step is that we are going to read our data set. So for reading data sets in pandas, we have different methods like a read CSV or XLS etc. So for the Excel file you can use read Excel method. Currently we have dataset in .csv format, so we are going to use the read underscore CSV method. Okay, this is stored in a variable named data, and you can also store this data set. Data is sufficient here. pd dot read underscore CSV, and inside here you will give the data set name, or if data set in another folder, so in that case you will pass the whole path of data set. So for my case this is like inside the same folder, so I'm just giving the name. Just click enter. You can see there's not any error, means the data set has been loaded. And if you want to see whether the data set is loaded or not, you can simply type data on Jupyter notebook, or you can also print data, so it will display here. So you can see the data set has been successfully loaded. And yeah, so starting with the method. So first method we are going to cover is head and tail method. So head is nothing but as you can see there are so many data, so many rows, 891 rows in our data set. So by using head method we can see the initial rows of our data set. Like, so okay, so suppose I only want to see the 6 or 7 rows of this data set, first 6 or 7 rows. So for that I'm just using data.head, and suppose I want to 7 rows, just pass 7 as an argument, and the moment I run it you can see the first 7 rows here, like a 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay, so head is basically return the row from the beginning of the data set. By default it returns 5, I guess. Let me check. Yeah, so by default if we did not pass any argument inside it, so it will return first 5 rows. Okay, so in the opposite side we have a tail method. So tail is nothing but it will return the last rows of your data set. So you want to fetch the last 5 rows of your data set, so you can simply pass like data tail, not trail, it's like tail. Okay, and you can see we have now last 5 rows of our data set. So we also can pass value inside. Suppose we want to see the last 10 rows, so in that case we basically pass 10 here and click enter. So you can see the last 10 rows here. So this is our first method, data head and tail. And the next method is we are going to see that data frame. Sure, data is also there. Yeah. So the second method is info. So info method is basically return the information about your data. With information about your data like data types and which type of data it has, object types, etc. So simply you can run like this. And you can see that the type of this is a data frame, and okay, yeah. So it tells about the total attributes we have, like a passenger ID, survived, name, sex, age, ticket, etc. So floating value is 2, 5 of type integer, and 5 is about the object. So you can see 2 floating numbers here, like a age and this where, and other are the object type. Basically there is not an string type, so you can consider a string like name and the sex, etc. about the object type. So first method is head and tail, second is info, and the third important method is d types, shape and size. And there is one more method like d type. So d type is basically you can understand about it like info. In info we get the some messy values, like you can see data types have float, two data types have 2 attributes have float, and 5 attributes is integer type, 5 is about object type. So if I directly apply d type, so it will return me the exact data type of every attribute. So it is giving some errors. Okay, not data types, yeah. So you can see passenger ID is integer, survived is also integer, and name is the object type, basically string. The sex is also object type, age is the floating number, and all. So d type and info is quite similar, but in the case of info we get the messy values, when in the case of d types we get the exact value of our data. And the next important method is shape and size. So shape is basically return the total number of rows and columns in our data set, and size is basically return the total number of values we have in our data set. Basically the nothing but the multiplication of rows and columns. So just give a try on it. Okay, here, okay, data shape, so it will return the why is giving error, not a function. Okay, so our data set have 891 rows and 12 columns. You can see here basically start from 0 to 890 and 12 columns. So our data set have 891 rows and okay, it will return number of rows and columns. Yeah. So means result. Okay, so 891 rows are there and 12 columns are there. Okay, so size is quite similar with shape. So it will basically return the total number of values, total count we have in a data set. You can see 1062. So yeah, So if we multiply 891 with 12, we will get the, I hope we will get the similar value. Oh, let me give a try. Okay, so count is basically 0.06 21 multiplied by 12. Yeah, you can see the similar. Okay, so size basically return the total entries we have in a data set. Okay, so the next important method is describe. So describe is one of the most important method during using data cleaning, data exploring, basically used in a data analysis. So describe method will tell about the, basically it gives the mean values like what is the minimum, mean, count, and standard deviation, etc. So let's give a try by giving this, executing this method. Yeah, describe. One more method, I think, then describe and summaries as well. We'll see. Okay, so describe is basically return total summary about your data set. So we can see the mean value, standard deviation, STD is nothing but a standard deviation, and the minimum, maximum value of everything. So you can see the maximum age we have in our data set is 80, and the minimum age we have in our data set is, this is not a, this is in a month, I guess. Okay, and the ID starts from 1 to 891. Fair. Okay, so it will return the total summary of your data set. Describe method. Let me comment out something. It will return the total summary of data set. So we have seen head and tail, we have seen other methods. So the next method we have is, now we are going to dealing with the null values, or is there any missing value in our data set. So during the data analysis process, the working with the, if we take null values as not a number value during our analysis process, so result will not accurate. So for that we need to deal with that. So for dealing with the missing values, we have basically 2 or 3 functions. So one is NA, basically not a number, and the next one we have is null. And yeah, so let's give a try. Okay, just add the heading over there. And dealing with missing values. Okay. Oh, why is not showing as a drop down? Okay, yeah. So we have is NA. First we have is null method. So it will return true and false inside your all columns value. If there is any null value, so it will return true, or otherwise it will fill all the columns value as a false. So it's null. Okay, so you can see we have all data set numbers are here. Let's apply head over it because there's lots of data. Okay, so it will return only 5 values. Yeah, so you can see we have false, mean this passenger ID is not have null value. Survive, not have any null value. When a cabin we have true, means the cabin value for first passenger is null. So you can verify in our data set. So you can see this is our first passenger and cabin value is not a number, so this is null. And for third value it is also null. So maybe So for sure it will return true for this case. Yeah, you can see true is here for the second person, 1, 2 and 3. Yeah. So one method we have is null, basically fill whole data set with true and false, and if we have any null values, so it will just place true over there. And the next function we have is na. So isna is a function, it will apply all the attributes and return true and false. Data is na. If any data attributes is na, if any attributes have null values, so it will return true for that, and if not, so it will return false for that. Okay, so because as you can see on the above section, we have true values only for Kevin. So for sure Kevin is having some null values, and embarked is also have some null values. Okay, so you can see age is also have some null values, Kevin also has some null values, and this is also have some null values. Okay, the next method we have, suppose we want to get the sum of the all null values we have for every columns. So for that we can directly apply the sum method on isnull function. Isnull is sum. Okay. So 177 out of 891, 177 records have undefined age. For 687 have undefined Kevin, and for 2 is for embarked. So that's how we deal with the missing values in data analysis. And the next important method we have, we want to see all columns in our data set, so we can directly apply data columns method. Okay, so you can see all columns name are here: passenger ID, server IP, class names, etc. So to read all column type, and other methods is also there, like memory use, how many memory use for each and every attribute in our data set. So that is not so important. Okay, the next important method we have, so I guess which method I have already covered, like head, tail, info, data types, and shape, size, describe, isnull, isna, and data columns. Okay, so we also have 3 most important methods in pandas. One is loc and iloc, another is slicing, and then last one is groupby. So for loc and iloc method, basically we are going to fetching some data from our data set. So loc is basically return the data as per the labels, and iloc is return the data as per the positions. So let me give a try on it. Okay, so basically loc method takes 2 parameters. First is nothing but the index slicing. Okay, so slicing is basically for the number of rows you want to get in your data. So I'm taking like from starting to 4, so it will return first 4 rows of our data set, and the next thing loc takes is the label name. So suppose label name is your column's name. Okay, it's like a passenger ID, and second, suppose I want name. Yeah, give enter. Okay, so you can see we got 5 total rows, 5 data rows, and we only get the passenger ID. Basically we filter out the data as a passenger ID and the name. So if you want to see the sex as well, so you can simply apply sex here, and you can see the male, female, and so on. So this is lock. So let me add comment over here. You're fetching data as per label name, and iloc is quite similar with it. So for iloc, in the place of label name, we can pass the index of labels. We can fetch as per index. Okay, so first we'll take the same first values for retrieving the total number of rows, and the second is basically for the attributes column name. Yeah, so suppose we want to see the first 3, like a passenger ID, survived, and the P class. So we can simply pass like this 3 and this. Okay, so you can see the first will return the rows, number of rows we wanted, and the 3 is basically it will return the passenger ID, survived, and P class. If I add 4 here, so basically it will return till name. Yeah, you can see here. So this is one of the important function is pandas. And the next one we have slicing. So slicing is quite similar with above. You can try slicing as well here, like a data, and it takes, if we did not pass any initial value, it will start from beginning. 6, 7, so it will return 7, all data from 0 to 7. Quite similar as index slicing in a list. So if we run this, it will also return the same. We want to see the data from 10 to 17, so we can simply pass like this. Okay, so it will, you can see the data rows are from 10 to 16 and total number is 17. Okay, the next method we have is a groupby. So groupby method is one of the most important method in pandas. Basically it will give the relationship between the different attributes in our data set. So suppose we want to see the total number of male and females, age that survived, basically an average age that survived during that disaster, and the age, the people who lie in that age will not survive in disaster. So suppose we want to see, so basically we are going to group by like attributes survive, sex, and age, and we are going to take the mean of that. Okay, just start like this. Data and the attribute that will pass like survive. Just copy the name. Why I'm doing so much work? Survived and the sex. Okay, the next is who ate here. That one is important. So the next we are going to apply groupby. You can understand groupby that we have in SQL. Okay, so it will a function, and here we will pass parameters survived and sex. Okay, and suppose let's try with this. Okay, so we have some data here, and 0 is basically the person who died during that disaster, and 1 is basically the person who survived. And you can see the female age draws 25 have been died during that disaster, and for 28 we have a mean age basically survived, and this age is for man for died and survived. Yeah, so that's how we get the meaningful information using group by method. And yeah, so we miss one method during dealing with the null values, like a drop NA. So drop NA is basically remove a row or a column from your data set which having not a number NaN as a value or no value in it. So basically, so we're going to apply drop NA here, and which we have to pass the column attributes name. So we have NA is basically for Kevin. Okay, as this, and data drop, and call. Okay, and it will take column name that we want to drop NA values, and access in place to see data. So now we get the, you can see the cabin has been dropped. There is not any cabin column inside this data set now. So that's how we deal with the missing values. Yeah, so that's all about the crash course on a Python Pandas. So one or two more methods, like a query, we want to fetch some data inside it for a name or between any range etc, and insert, you want to insert some new data inside this existing data set. So many methods are there, but these are the most important methods you use during data analysis and cleaning process. Yeah, thanks. If you have any doubt, just do comment, and I will add a link in the description for dataset. Yeah, thanks.